Welcome to the Yoga Method and welcome to Noosa National Park in Australia. I hope you'll forgive me for wearing my hat today. It's just a very warm day here. Today we'll focus on lower back pain and everyday essentials to help you deal with them. There are four major components to creating healthy, strong backs. Number one is postural awareness. So first we need to become aware of how we walk, sit, stand, pick up things, and carry things. And we also need, number two, postural endurance to hold that postural awareness. And the two key components to postural endurance are your core and your pelvic strength, stability, and your overall flexibility. So if you are someone who is naturally flexible, I want you to move to part two of this, where we focus on creating strength through your lumbar spine and through your pelvis. But if you are feeling a little bit stiff and tight, then this is where I would love for you to begin. Please remember, if you're having an acute episode of lower back pain, to consult your allied health professional, as this is just a really wonderful maintenance program that you can do from an everyday perspective. So come and join me in child's pose as soon as you're ready. So knees wide, big toes together, and taking a moment to really drop into the awareness, as always, of our breath, of our bodies, of our surroundings. And just noticing as we pause here at the beginning of this practice, even in this position, what is speaking to you in this moment? So there's certain patterns of lower back pain, and we know with facet joint base pain, quite often flexion feels wonderful, so we're in a little bit of flexion here. But if you're dealing with a disc issue, then lumbar flexion is something we wish to avoid. All ranges of motion need to be pursued once we are through the acute phase. But when we are experiencing a flare-up or a new injury, once again, just really please consult your allied health professional. Beautiful crew, when you're ready, let's begin by walking our hands to the right side of your mat, or your towel in this case. And we use this to create a little bit of lumbar flexion and lateral flexion at the same time. So we're seeking length, and at the same time we're working on a gentle engagement of pelvic floor and your lower abdominals to support all the movements that we're doing today. Please stay for two more full breaths here. One more full, deep, smooth breath. And when the time is right for you, I'd love for you just to exchange to the other side, please. So a little bit of lateral flexion on top of flexion. And you can always invite a little rotation in to begin with to find the most perfect option for you. So deliberately lengthening through the right side of the torso, breathing deeply into those areas where you're feeling this. So there's a muscle called your quadratus femoris, which gets an awful lot of blame for lower back pain. It quite often goes into spasm or develops trigger points when the abdominals maybe aren't supporting us as well as they should be. So let's take two more breaths here. One more full, deep, smooth breath in and out. And when the time is right for you, please return to the midline for just two more breaths. So right this moment, we are really focusing on lumbar flexion. So in a moment, we're going to come into puppy pose to focus on thoracic and lumbar extension. So when the time is right for you, please shift your weight forward a little bit. And you'll begin to stack your pelvis above your knees. I prefer to keep my toes tucked in puppy pose, but your decision. And then keeping the pelvis high, please begin to bow your chest, your chin, your armpits towards the earth. So there's a real deliberate tilt of the tailbone towards the sky. And there is absolutely a deliberate lifting of the lower abdominals, the pelvic floor, to maintain support while we're moving through these ranges of motion. So you'll feel this most likely a little bit through your shoulders, or maybe a lot, through your upper back, through your mid back, and through your lower back. As we send 3 more breaths into those places, please. One more full breath in and out before rolling our way back up, walking the hands back in. And please take a moment in our happy cat. Again, the shape is focusing on extension through the entire spine, including the cervical spine. And as we tuck the tailbone and breathe out, we're tucking chin to navel center, gazing towards our belly button, creating flexion everywhere along the spine. Take one more breath into extension, moving through the lower back, the middle back, the upper back as you lift through the chin. And on your exhalation, rounding through your lumbar spine, looking towards your navel center as you raise the roof with your spine. As we come to this neutral position here, I'd like for you to take a moment just to walk your knees back a little bit and see if you could lower all the way down with control. We're coming into Sphinx pose. So once again, reinforcing that if there is any real strain in this, I want you to ease out of it by taking your elbows wider. Today, you might even just place your hands on your forehead. But once you have found the right option for you, we deliberately relax through the hips. We press down into the elbows. I'm maintaining a little bit of action in my legs, just a tiny bit, but deliberately softening through the hips. And in this posture, one of the few times, I really would love for you to let your abdominals just relax and let the breath mobilize the spine. So you'll feel the inhalation create a little bit more length in your spine, almost gapping those facet joints. And on your exhalation, everything compresses again as it draws back to the midline. Just take 2 more breaths, please. One more breath as you are. And when you are ready, please slide your elbows wide. And we're coming into a half frog pose, which in the physio world is called the Mackenzie technique. And this technique is prescribed and part of rehabilitation for people with disc issues. Again, if you're having an acute flare-up, see your allied health professional. But it is a beautiful stretch from an everyday essential standpoint. So ankle at 90, knee at 90, hip at 90. And this is variation 1. We're just opening through the adductor. And variation 2, you create a sphinx shape while you are in a half frog. So you're pressing down with your elbows deliberately. You're drawing your shoulder blades away from your ears. But at the same time, you are deliberately softening through the abdominals, through your lower back, and through your pelvis. Please take 3 more breaths here. One more full, deep, smooth breath in and out. Before you let your elbows slide wide, we'll bring our hands underneath us. We'll tuck our left toes and we'll press ourselves up back to our 4-point kneeling. Take a moment just to move from side to side. So really gently swaying through the rib cage, swaying through the pelvis, finding just a little beautiful release and a relief through the back. And when the time is right for you, please bring your right hand to the outside of your right pinky finger. And if the floor is feeling a little bit far away on the shape, I'd love for you to use a block or 2 or a pillow or a stack of books. But begin by checking that your knee is above your ankle and then pressing into the earth. So we're creating a lengthening through the spine as we're creating hip extension. So some of us will feel this in our right hamstring and our right adductors. Others of us will feel this in our hip flexor and our quadricep. Wherever you feel it is normally where you need it. So just trust in the process. As long as you are feeling just a gentle stretch, never, ever, ever, ever is pain appropriate. One more breath as you are. And then I'd like for you to tuck your back toes and really power into your back leg. We're walking our hands to the left, and your knee will want to follow you, but you're not going to let that happen. You'll keep pressing your right knee to the pinky toe as you walk your hands as far away as it feels good to your body. Keep powering into your back leg, building strength, building endurance, building stability. And then sending the breath into any of the places you're feeling that beautiful sensation. Please just take one more full deep breath in. And on your exhalation, walking your hands back to the midline. And please release your back knee. We'll move into a hamstring stretch. So basically anything that attaches to our lumbar spine and anything attaching to the pelvis, we want to stretch so that we can maintain good mobility, good flexibility, keeping our spines healthy and happy. So as we move into this hamstring stretch, once again, the floor might just feel a little too far away. So hands on a yoga block, and then we'll all draw the right hip back, left hip forward, and I'd like for you to think about pressing your heel down, and you'll physically try and drag it backwards, but it won't move. You'll just feel a beautiful increase in stretch, in sensation. From here, could you just roll your toes in and out and just notice what sparks, what speaks to you as we do this gentle neural movement. So as we roll the toes open, you'll feel a little bit more zing through your sciatic nerve. Sorry, little ant, I'm going to move you off my towel. And then I'd like for you just to pause and hold with your toes rolled out for a moment more. Pressing into the hands, pressing into your right heel, deliberately lifting through the heart as you take 2 more breaths. One more full breath, please, before gently releasing yourself back into your right foot. Please turn your right toes on a 45. Move your left hand just a little bit further forward to the top of your mat. And then taking your right hand to your right thigh. So we're descending through the pelvis. And we're also then creating a little bit of rotation to enhance what we're feeling. We lift through the belly. We engage through the pelvic floor. And there's a deliberate tightening of your left glute, which helps to open the front of your hip. If you're feeling a great stretch, please stay here. Nothing more is needed. Variation 2, we deepen the stretch by bending into our left leg, reaching with our, which hand is that? Right hand. And then the final variation is to come low. So remembering this is perfect. Nothing more needs to happen. Okay? And then only if it feels good, you'll reach. You'll test the waters there. And then variation 3, perhaps lowering to your forearm. So grounding into the 4 corners of your right foot, creating a little bit of rotation. Lifting through Mula Bandha, your pelvic floor muscles, to engage your transversus abdominis. And then drawing the navel towards your spine to engage the other 3 layers of muscle. Taking 2 more full breaths as you are. One more full, deep, deep, smooth breath in and out. Please release whatever option you've chosen. And from here, ground the hands, tuck your back toes, and let's make our way into a downward facing dog. So spreading through your fingers and just taking a moment to pedal through your heels. Now listen, this shape, it's one of the hardest shapes there are in yoga, but it's in every class, isn't it? So in this position, we can modify by first bending our knees. So most importantly is the length of your spine. So if you're feeling really rounded, I'd like for you to bend your knees a lot as you get onto the tips of your toes, and then focus on lifting your tailbone and then gazing towards your feet. And only if you feel like you need a little bit more, you'll begin to descend through your heels. Now, if you're built like me, we tend to overarch and kind of dump into things. So if that's you, you're going to scoop your belly and you'll almost feel like you're in an angry cat shape. So we're all moving into the same posture, but based on our anatomy and our current level of tightness, flexibility in the body, we'll need to make some adjustments. Beautiful crew. It's your right leg that's lifting, and I'd like for you to keep your pelvis level. So squaring through your shoulders, squaring through your pelvis. And by keeping the pelvis level, we are strengthening the right glute, the right hamstring. At the same time, we're creating a beautiful stretch through our left hamstring and our left calf and Achilles. When the time is right for you, you'll lift to the tips of your toes and come to pigeon pose, please. So making any adjustment. So sliding your right foot forward any amount and keep inching your left leg back. So listen, if that's too much, just sit here. It's the same posture. And variation 2, we're up and over. Take a moment to really breathe, lift and length into the spine. So extension through the hip, through the lower back. And then maintaining hip extension on the left. We'll move into a little bit of lumbar flexion. And then I'd like for you to come into rotation. So ground into your right hand, thread with your left, and then just everything softens down. Your back toes can flatten, or you can keep them tucked, just choosing what feels best for you in this moment. So where do you need to soften? Where are you holding tension? But equally important, where do you need to cultivate strength in this posture? So we're opening the back of the right hip. We're opening the front of the left hip. So could you engage your left glute just a little bit, as well as a gentle, subtle engagement of your pelvic floor and your lower abdominals. Just taking 2 more breaths, please. A pigeon pose a day might keep the orthopedic surgeon away. We need them. We need them. But if we can avoid them, absolutely. 1 more breath. And when the time is right for you, please just ground into your hands, lifting through your heart space for a moment. You'll take a seat onto your right cheek, and you'll bring this back leg all the way around until the foot finds the earth. So please ground into the 4 corners of your left foot, and just make sure you're feeling really nice and level through your pelvis. And then a little bit of a different approach to this, please. Let's begin with the traditional twist. So hugging your right arm to your left knee, grounding into your left hand to spiral and look over your left shoulder. So the lift, the length of the spine primary. We're maintaining connection to our lumbar stabilizers through the pelvic floor, through the abdominal wall. Taking 2 more breaths, please. 1 more full breath in and out. On your in-breath, return your eye gaze. On your exhalation, release your twist and just reach your arms for a moment before bringing your fingertips together. This is going to look just a little funny. I'd like you to tip so that your forearm is the same line as your shin, and then just dip yourself down. So you're creating a little bit of lateral flexion and rotation, and it really opens that quadratus lumborum, that side body. Just take 2 more breaths here. 1 more breath, please. And when the time is right for you, just lifting back to the midline, before releasing your hands behind you. Step your left foot towards the top corner of your towel or your mat. Take your right foot to the same place, and you can either stay here for a modified yogi squat, or you can press yourself up and take a full yogic squat. If you're balancing on your toes, please bring your hands to the earth. And if you do not need the hands on the floor, I'd like for you to press your palms to prayer. And then just take a moment, either with your hands down or your hands elevated, just to sway a little bit from side to side. Noticing the places where there's still some tension lingering, but also celebrating those places where you feel some freedom coming. Take 2 more breaths where you are, please. And then finding your stillness before grounding your hands, stepping back into 4-point kneeling. And we started this sequence in puppy pose. So knees stacking over hips, toes tucked if you prefer. Walk your hands forward and deliberately melt the heart down. So you might rest your forehead flat. You might take your chin instead. But this action of creating extension through your lower back, your middle back, and finding that beautiful stretch through your shoulders as well. So even in this shape, can you maintain the lift of the abdominals, just subtle? And even though it's more challenging to breathe, can you take that moment to really find connection here? Just one more breath before we ripple our way forward. Walk the hands back a little bit, and we're coming to that half frog pose. So taking a moment in Sphinx, finding the Sphinx that feels right for your body. Elbows stacking under shoulders, pressing down in order to extend upwards, keeping the toes tucked or lengthened. But deliberately let your glutes go. A little dragging forward action to open the front body as we extend through back body. Shoulders moving away from the ears for one more breath. And then that could be your option to repeat, or we'll slide our left leg to 90 degrees. So we've got 90 degrees at the hip, at the knee, and at the ankle joint. And that might feel like enough right there. Option 2, recreating your Sphinx pose with this modification in your leg. Again, extension is usually part of the treatment plan for disc issues, but only using this from an everyday essential for healthy backs. Anytime we have acute flare-ups, anytime we have an acute injury, seeking professional advice. And when things are going well, that is when we implement these everyday essentials rather than waiting for a flare-up. We continually plant the seeds of good health, good mobility, good strength, good stability in our bodies. Taking 3 more breaths, please. Last 2. One more full, deep, smooth breath in. And on your exhalation, elbows wide, please slide your hands beneath you, tuck your back toe, and just make your way up for a moment into 4-point kneeling. Got a little collection of dirt, that's okay. You'll step forward when the time is right for you with your left foot, and you'll ground both hands to the inside of your left foot. Now, if you're not feeling a stretch, chances are this knee's too close, and you'll need to just tuck your toes and inch your knee back until you feel That beautiful sensation coming into the quadriceps and into your hip flexor. So please begin by checking that your knee is stacking over your ankle. And if the floor is feeling too far away, you will absolutely use your blocks, your books to help you. A little engagement through your right glute, a little engagement through your pelvic floor and your lower abdominals. Taking 2 more breaths here. 1 more breath, please. And when the time is right, you tuck your back toes, you elevate your back knee, and then you'll walk on a diagonal away from your left leg. The knee will want to follow you. You will not let that happen. You're going to keep pressing your knee to the pinky toe side. You're going to continue to really power into your back leg, reaching the arms away as far as it feels really good to your body. So an active stretch creates strength in those ranges of motion that we're exploring. And that is the gift of yoga, this active flexibility. 1 more breath as you are before walking your hands back to the midline, please, and releasing through your back knee. Turn your toes, your left toes, on a 45, and please bring your left hand to your knee and move your right hand a little bit more to the top of your mat or towel. Please create some rotation. And where I'm hoping you feel this is right down that front of your right thigh. Keep spinning, keep sinking, and then choosing whether this is the perfect option for you today. You could also bend your right knee, reach with your left hand, and if you're like me and you're getting a cramp, you're going to stay right there. But variation 2, you will reach for your back foot. See if my cat cramp lets go. It's fading. And variation 3, if you still feel like you need a little bit more depth, you'll lower yourself down onto your forearm. So rotating through the spine, extending through the hip, and bending the knee brings more emphasis into the quadricep component. So finding connection now to your right glute, to your pelvic floor, as you send the breath into the areas that you are feeling this the most. Last 2 full breaths, please. 1 more full, deep, smooth goodbye breath in before gently releasing the option that you took. And we're moving into that half Hanumanasana, please. So when you are ready, you'll walk your hands back a little bit. And I believe I did this one first last time on the other side. That's okay. So floor, again, can be elevated by placing blocks or books underneath you. Most importantly in the shape is we're not really encouraging flexion here. We want to maintain more of a neutral spine as we just find a beautiful stretch through our left hamstring. The more we draw the toes back, the more we bring a neural component. Your nerves need stretching just like your muscles. And then we played with a little bit of a tick-tocking, a little bit of rotation through the foot. And with that little bit of movement, you're accessing kind of the nervous system a little bit differently. Different angles feel different to the body. Taking 1 more with movement, and then I'd like for you to pause with your thigh externally rotated. Remember, you're pressing your heel down, dragging the heel back, but nothing's moving. And at the same time, we focus on squaring the pelvis by dragging or drawing the left hip back, right hip forward. How deeply can you breathe into these last 2 breaths, please? 1 more full deep breath in and out. When the time is right for you, grounding through that front foot again before bringing that leg behind you. Downward facing dog, so hands are shoulder distance, feet are hip distance. We're propelling the hips high. We're inviting gentle movement in. And we're remembering that our spinal position is far more important than ever getting our heels on the floor. So if you're feeling rounded, you're going to bend your knees, lift your hips. If you're feeling overextended, you're going to scoop the belly instead. Taking 2 more breaths with that little bit of movement. Just noticing again how the body is feeling. Please find stillness. It'll be your left leg that's rising just a little bit until you feel a stretch through your right hamstring. Maybe your right calf, maybe your right Achilles. And through that left side, we are deliberately strengthening through glute max, through our hamstring, and at the same time maintaining connection to pelvic floor and our abdominals. When the time is right for you, to the tips of the toes, as you ease your way into your version of pigeon, which could look like this. It doesn't need to be up and over. So if that's working for you, again, honoring your body, listening to what your body is saying yes, please to. And then when the time is right, you'll ease your way down to your forearm. But we're taking that twist with our left hand grounded, threading the right arm through, palm to ceiling, releasing your wrist, your elbow, your shoulder, maybe even your head. So a little bit of hip extension through the right, opening up the back of your hip on the left, and a very subtle, gentle amount of rotation through the spine. So even though we are stationary, there is absolutely a dynamic component. On your in-breath, we seek length. And on the exhalation, we're softening where we can, but maintaining our abdominal strength. Taking 2 more breaths. And when you're ready, please just ease your way out of that shape. Take a moment to extend through your spine before taking a seat on your left cheek. Bring your right leg around. And we're coming into Matsyendrasana. So crossing your right foot over your left knee and taking a moment to see if that feels possible for you. And if not, we could come right there instead. But if it's feeling available with both hips grounded and 4 corners of your right foot grounded, please hug your right knee with your left arm, grounding into your right hand, creating the support you need as you gently, gently revolve. How tall can we grow as we breathe in? And how much softness can we find as we breathe out? There's 2 more breaths on offer. Using the strength of your arms and your core, take 1 more breath. And then returning your eye gaze on your inhalation, gently releasing your twist. Your arms will fly wide for a moment, and then your fingertips will meet. And you'll match the line of your shin. It looks a little bit strange, but you'll please land your elbow wherever you can, and then deliberately create a lift of your top elbow. So finding a little bit of rotation, lateral flexion, core supporting us, breath opening us. Last 3 breaths, please. For 2. 1 more breath. When the time is right, in breath will lift you up. Exhalation, you'll release your hands, uncross your legs. Option 1 for modified yogi squat looks like this. Option 2, we're coming up once again into malasana. That gentle sway from side to side, either with your hands in prayer or your hands on the earth, just noticing that the body is feeling balanced now, a little freer, a little more open and alive. Please bring hands to prayer. Take a seat if you're not already there. And let's just close this practice by coming into Sukhasana or half lotus or full lotus, whatever is part of your practice. Please just rest your hands on your knees, closing down the eyes, and bring the awareness into your spinal column. The miracle of your spinal column, the miracle of your nervous system. Thanking your body for the opportunities to walk, to swim, to climb, to dance, to play, and celebrating yourself as you have taken the time to create the mobility and the flexibility needed for a healthy spine. With your hands coming to your heart center, we take one last full deep breath together before closing our practice with a bow. Namaste.